What it do, peeps? What it do? Still at the bus barn, getting the bus gassed up. I cooked all day. Got a buffet for you: brisket, ribs, smoked sausage, potato salad, baked beans, corn on the cob, plenty. Everybody gonna get to eat. Everybody gonna be eating. Everybody gonna have the itis. Everybody gonna be laid out when you get through eating. But somebody brought up Project B and what it is. Project B initially was something that LeBron James was trying to do to get entrance into being an owner in the NBA. Unfortunately for LeBron James, a player can't be an owner, but we all know LeBron James is at the end of his career. And this will probably be his last year. So he's trying to gain entrance, but he needs capital because LeBron James is not going to spend all of his wealth to try to gain access into an NBA franchise. So him, his friend Maverick Carter, they try to get a group of investors. The one thing about the NBA and most leagues, they are super gate kept. NBA, NFL owners, WNBA owners, you name it. Their leagues are like private country clubs. The teams are like their toys. So a team owner, say the Nets, say the Lakers, that's the little toy. But the league as a whole is the country club. You don't want LeBron James in your country club because LeBron James is one of those guys that has been an outspoken person on this and that. They allowed Michael Jordan in the club. And when they allowed Michael Jordan in the club, they allowed Michael Jordan in at a loss to the previous owner who had the Charlotte Bobcats. He sold the team for less than what he paid for it to get Michael Jordan access. That was a favor. They're not going to extend that favor to LeBron James. So LeBron James goes out and tries to seek other funds. The story dies. I saw this story way back in January. I'll try to find the story and put it in the description. But it grew legs, I guess, this week, probably Friday. And the reason being is I made a story back in the summer called NBA Days of Future Past. And it was basically breaking down how the NBA's future really directly affects the WNBA. In that story, it was basically talking about how the league's getting older. And the star players that really have carried the league are almost in their last runs. A lot of them over 35, LeBron James being the oldest guy. Well, also, in that story, the greatest thing that the NBA has done is bringing an influx of talent from Europe. Now, Europe's ahead of most countries when it comes to basketball and the quality of players. Europe has that on lock, but they don't pay real well. Europe doesn't pay real well. They don't pay their players real well in Europe. Players on the low end, I saw where some players were getting like 30,000 a year, 60, 80. But in the average, say like in Israel, 250. Germany, 100,000. Greece, 250. Italy, 350. So it's good money in those leagues, but not compared to the United States. Take a look at this picture of the MVPs in the NBA and the countries they came from. Take a look. Now, you see over the recent history, teams, players from other countries. What Project B basically wants to do is leverage itself against the NBA. They're never going to be able to acquire the NBA because, once again, it's super vampires versus super vampires. Even though we know the Saudi government has a ton of money, the NBA owners will never let them in the club. So the only thing they can do is compete. The NBA has always known this. So Project B is nothing new because the NBA views everybody as a threat. Everybody. Every league is a threat to the NBA. If you play basketball, you're a threat to the NBA. But you're over here. You're not here playing in America. So the NBA wants to make inroads into a country. On Friday, they had a game. I believe it was the Nets and the Phoenix Sun in China. America, NBA, they had a great relationship. The NBA and China had a great relationship. Until around like 2019, there was a general manager for the Houston Rockets. His name was Daryl Morey. He said some stuff about China that he shouldn't even said. He shouldn't even talked about it. But nonetheless, China stood on business and they cut the NBA completely off. Jersey sales, everything. Access, didn't let their people watch NBA games because they control the TV. Ever since that point, the owner of the Liberty, who is also the owner of the Nets, Joseph Tsai, has been trying to make inroads to make that connection back and mend that fence. Well, they finally mended the fence. They made a new deal. They're going to start an academy, a basketball academy in China, because the NBA is always looking for talent. Wherever you're at, they want talent. They haven't got a Chinese player on the level of Yao Ming in a long time. So they would love that. They're getting a lot of the talent out of Europe, South America, couple players. But they haven't tapped China. Project B is Middle Eastern based. The one thing they don't have is talent. The women's side, they just barely started letting women play sports. Particular basketball, I think it was 2018 where they started letting them play. And they're real stringent on other things as well in their country. Lifestyle choices being one of the things in Saudi Arabia that will get you caught up. That being said, with the WNBA, the NBA part is easy. They're not going to do that right now. They're going to wait till later. The women's game is the easiest part for them to slide in and not be viewed as a big threat. And when we get on the bus ride, I'll explain why. But a couple teams, they said it was going to be a couple teams that they were going to have. A couple teams. And now LeBron James's name has fallen off the docket for investors in this league. So now it's Candace Parker, Steve Young, Novak Djokovic, the guy that started Skype, and then a Saudi prince is in on this. Now, ask yourself this question. In the Middle East, they have bought up everything. They got golf, got into golf. Why would they need any American to start a league? They could have been started the basketball league years ago if they wanted to. If you've ever seen the movie Live Free and Die Hard, and this is what got me thinking about this. In Live Free and Die Hard, there was a guy that wanted power and control, and he wanted money. He hires a group of startup people to start up this project. It's kind of like Project B. A bunch of people. Steve Young. What does Steve Young know about women's basketball? But on the name face, everybody knows when you say Steve Young and they say, Steve Young, that was the San Francisco 49er? Yes, that's Steve Young. When you say Candace Parker, yes, you think WNBA, you think TNT, you think Tennessee. Oh, okay. They get these people that are famous to always be in the front so that they can play the background. The question I have is this, and I got a couple. One, they said that it's going to run from November to April. And I don't believe it's going to run this year. It'd be impressive if they got it started this year and started playing. But You're gonna run this year, or run whenever you decide to run. You're going to run with an 11-person team. That's the same thing they cry about in the W. I just thought that was ironic. Two, a lot of these players have different lifestyle choices. One being Candace Parker. So you're willing to take the money and work for an entity that doesn't even support what you do. If you take the money, you're a hypocrite. If you take the money and you're one of these WNBA players, that lets me know everything that you hoop and holler about over here is just you complaining just to complain. You really only care about the dollar. It's not about the growth of the women's game. It's not about my rights, and it's not about the alphabets. It ain't about none of that. If you take this money. So I'm really interested to see who takes the money, because they've already signed, so reportedly, WNBA players. The last question, when is it just going to start? Because it shouldn't take long to start a league that travels. You should be able to get this up in no time, up and running easy. But that's what Project B is. Project B is nothing but a way, was a way to try to get into getting the ownership stake in a team. That didn't work. So now you went and took foreign money to create your own league. And the easiest thing to start is to do the women's game. And then come in later and try to attack the men's game. But that's all it is. All it is it's just another freaking company backed by big foreign money trying to make inroads. Because think about it, folks, the WNBA, for the WNBA to truly survive, they have to go global. They have to go. The NBA survival really depends on going global and improving the American product. And that's the pipeline that feeds you. And that's in college. The college game has to get better. And those guys have to stay in college a little longer than what they've been doing, instead of coming and trying to get this money quick. Because the failure rate on lottery picks is super high, more than it's ever been, and that's been the problem. And that's the reason why you're not getting the mega stars. You're getting decent players, but not mega stars, and guys are dropping out the league or either bouncing around or being G League flunkies. That's what we got to contend with. But that's all Project B is. Project B is nothing but live free and die hard. You get a bunch of people in to start up some crap. When you get it started, you push them to the side. So the Alana Beard being the president of basketball operations, fake title. Candace Parker's just there for name value. Steve Young's there just for name value. Whenever they get this thing up and rolling and it's global and it's moving, they won't need 4 or 5 little Americans that they got on there today. They need that today to sell a story and to get your attention. That's all Project B is. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.